By the time those 2 August practices ended, the highlights were no longer the whole story. Pride was there. Relief, too. So was one uneasy feeling impossible to shake. Patriots Nation, listen closely. A young defender started taking command. A potential trade gained logic inside the AFC. A pressured player earned the support of a master at his position. And the offense's exciting connection revealed its dangerous side. This is not August hype. New England is growing stronger while confronting its flaws. If you felt that shift too, hit the like button and ride every high while we demand the adjustments separating promise from a team that is ready. We start with Craig Woodson, because 2 interceptions and a sack against Philadelphia will grab the headlines. But what hit me hardest came after those plays. Kevin Byard called the safeties camp phenomenal. Marcus Jones took it even further. He said Woodson has become a commander on the back end, somebody the entire group listens to and trusts. That word carries weight for a player entering only his 2nd NFL season. It speaks to more than talent. It speaks to presence, command of the system, and the responsibility of making sure everybody gets the right call when the defense has to move as one. On Wednesday, Woodson picked off Jalen Hurts twice and also got to the quarterback for a sack. He was quieter Thursday and eventually left practice for reasons that were not disclosed. There is no value in filling that silence with guesses. The larger picture still looks incredibly encouraging. His teammates see a defender who is more comfortable, quicker with his decisions, and able to turn recognition into possession. That lands differently when you remember where his story began. Woodson arrived as the 106th overall pick in the 4th round of the 2025 NFL Draft. He stepped into a room led by Kyle Duggar, Jabril Peppers, and Jalen Hawkins. He still climbed the depth chart, won a starting job, started 19 of 21 games as a rookie, and led New England's defense with a 93.7% snap share. That young player trying to survive among established veterans is gone. Woodson is securing his own place and helping everyone around him get organized. KJ Britt said you do not see many second-year players carry themselves like 10-year veterans. Byard praised Woodson's maturity and explained that their partnership runs both ways. The All-Pro brings years of league experience, details gathered from quarterbacks, route combinations, and high-pressure Sundays. Woodson helps his new running mate navigate a defense he already understands from the inside. That exchange can accelerate an entire secondary. This is a unit being built, not one player riding a hot stretch in training camp. Byard led the NFL in interceptions last season. Pairing him with a 25-year-old safety who already plays with composure and understands the calls could change the personality of the back end. Woodson does not need to copy Byard. He needs to absorb the small details that extend careers, sharpen his own instincts, and keep attacking the football the way he did against the Eagles. I will defend the Patriots, but I am not turning August into a coronation. The regular season will demand communication through crowd noise, discipline against play action, and the ability to reset after a bad snap. Leadership, though, begins showing itself before the stadiums are full. When Marcus Jones says the group is gravitating toward Woodson, Foxborough should pay attention. New England may have found more than a starter. We may be watching the voice of this defensive backfield emerge for years to come. And just as one piece of the roster starts feeling remarkably secure, another part of the team moves into a far more uncomfortable place. Kayshon Boutte is living in that uncomfortable place right now. The Patriots' wide receiver room has become too crowded for everybody to breathe easily, while Houston just lost Jaden Higgins for the season to a torn ACL suffered during a joint practice. That development created a possibility with obvious logic on paper. The Texans calling New England about Boutte. Ian Rappaport pointed out that Nick Caserio is a general manager who likes to make trades. Houston has a need, and Boutte would be a clean system fit. Caserio spent 2 decades in the Patriots organization before taking over the Texans. Boutte, meanwhile, could be sitting right on the edge of the final 53 after reportedly asking for a trade earlier in the offseason. I would slow down before treating a logical match like an inevitable outcome. Boutte is having a strong camp and his own message has been focused. He said he is blocking out the noise, keeping his feet where they are and staying present. New England should not give away production simply to make a crowded competition easier to manage. Last season, Boutte caught 33 passes for 551 yards and a career-best 6 touchdowns. In 2 games against Houston, he produced 134 receiving yards and 2 scores. One was the first passing touchdown of Drake Maye's career. The other came on a remarkable one-handed catch in the divisional round win. A.J. Brown, Romeo Doubs, Demario Douglas, Kyle Williams, Mac Hollins, and Efton Chisholm III give the Patriots a packed room. Boutte's role can look redundant after the massive investment in Brown. Trading a vertical threat to a conference rival still carries a competitive cost. If New England believes Boutte would be released anyway, getting a draft pick beats losing him for nothing. If the staff believes he can still help Maye, a late-round return may not be enough to justify making C.J. Stroud's offense more dangerous. This is where a fan's emotion has to move alongside the cold reality of roster construction. I like Boutte. I value the chemistry he built with Maye, and I have not forgotten the explosive catches. I also know 7 receivers do not fit comfortably into this equation. New England should listen, but Caserio cannot get a friendly discount. If Houston wants a young, productive receiver who is performing well right now, the offer has to make the Patriots better tomorrow, not simply make their roster easier to organize today. That demand for real value also applies to the players who stay. Will Campbell has carried a heavy emotional hit since the playoffs. His performance fueled criticism, reopened the argument about moving him inside to guard, and left plenty of people asking whether New England truly had its left tackle. Then Lane Johnson, a 6-time Pro Bowler and one of the most respected voices at the position, offered an assessment that cannot be brushed aside as fan bias. Johnson said Campbell reminds him of himself, a country kid, drafted in the first round, learning to live with everything that status puts on a player's shoulders. He believes Campbell had a good rookie season, and when they crossed paths again, Johnson saw progress. He saw a player who looked thicker, bigger, and recovered from the knee injury. That last piece changes how we should view the end of Campbell's rookie year. If he was more injured than people understood, the bad snaps remain on film, but they no longer have to define his ceiling at left tackle. But Patriots Nation, this is where things get really interesting. Johnson's praise did not come from a distance or from carefully selected clips on social media. Campbell worked with him and other veteran linemen during the offseason. Johnson saw him up close and watched his movement again during the joint practices. When a tackle with that resume recognizes familiar pressure, personal similarities, and physical progress in a young player, I listen. Not because one compliment fixes Drake Maye's protection. It confirms Campbell went looking for help in the right places and is answering the challenge instead of hiding from it. A brutal test is still waiting for him. Campbell has to deliver consistency against pass rushers who will attack his hands, his base, and every inch of his reach. One good month of camp will not erase the tackle versus guard conversation. That debate loses oxygen only when he protects Maye's blindside week after week. That is exactly why this update hits me. Campbell could have spent the offseason defending himself, searching for excuses, or responding to every criticism thrown his way. He chose a more productive answer. He sought out accomplished veterans, got his knee healthy, and returned with a body better prepared for the demands ahead. That is the kind of response Foxborough respects. Not speeches, work, not performative outrage. Correction, Lane Johnson did not guarantee Campbell would become dominant, and nobody needs to put that promise in his mouth. What he offered was more useful. A great player recognizing in a younger one both familiar pressure and a path of growth he understands firsthand. Campbell now has to turn that support into calmer Sundays for Maye. If he stabilizes the blind side, the entire line can breathe, the quarterback can play on schedule, and the offense can keep its full plan available. If he cannot, a difficult schedule will bring the position debate roaring back. Redemption does not arrive when criticism disappears. It arrives when performance makes the old criticism feel too small. The next story shows exactly why that protection could mean so much. Drake Maye and A.J. Brown made the field look small across those two practices. Brown kept stacking contested catches and finished Thursday with 5 red zone touchdowns. For a young quarterback, having a target who still feels available with a defender draped over him can look like a gift. It can also become a temptation. Maye threw 2 interceptions while targeting Brown during 11-on-11 work. On the first, he tried to hit a spot near the right pylon but delivered the ball late, allowing Reek Woolen to step in front. Maye owned the mistake and acknowledged how quickly space disappears in the red zone. On the second, he fired into traffic over the middle. Brown got a hand on it, the ball popped into the air, and Jalix Hunt came down with the interception. None of that makes me less excited about this pairing. I see a connection discovering its limits. Brown creates a margin few receivers can offer, but covered does not mean the same thing on every concept. Maye must recognize when Brown's strength, position, and body control justify the risk. He also has to recognize when the defense is waiting for him to force the issue. The encouraging part is how often they talk on the sideline. Maye explained that Brown shares what he sees from the defensive back, then listens to what the quarterback sees from his angle. That is chemistry being sharpened in public. Highlight, mistake, conversation, adjustment. I would rather watch them find that boundary now, against a strong defense in a controlled setting, than discover it by giving away a decisive possession in September. Maye does not have to live off one answer. Dubs is making difficult catches. Douglas keeps finding open grass. Hollins continues to show up, and Boutte already has chemistry with the quarterback while he remains on the roster. Brown should create space for those players, not erase them from Maye's progression. Patriots fans, give this partnership the green light only after one question. What adjustment would convince you that Maye and Brown are ready to decide big games together? Maye did not run from responsibility. Brown kept communicating. The coaches saw clearly what works and what can turn expensive. Defending this duo does not require ignoring the interceptions. Aggression without detail becomes waste. Detail without courage strips away what makes Brown special. When Maye learns to hunt for his star without becoming trapped by him, New England will have an offense that can force a defense to choose how it would rather suffer. I leave these 4 developments with a different feeling. The Patriots are not hiding their scars. They are answering them. Woodson is turning experience into leadership. Boutte is forcing a decision about value. Campbell is rebuilding trust through work. And Maye is learning that a special weapon still demands discipline. That is growth with friction, the way young teams actually mature. If you agree that New England is building something stronger by correcting its flaws in full view, hit the like button. Patriots Nation, tell me what you think. Which of these 4 stories will have the biggest impact when the season begins, and why?